Good evening, everyone. Hi, Facebook, YouTube. Hello, hello, hello. Welcome to Real Talk. I'm Ellasin, and on this show, we talk about real issues that directly impact the people of God and the community that surrounds it. As always, if you're joining us on Facebook, hit the like button, share it out. Tell all the ones you know because we talk about real issues. If you're on YouTube, smash the subscribe button so you can stay up to date on all your latest videos and our shows. So today, I just wanted to say we have been talking about the military, right? From the military's edition of Real Talk. And if you missed last week, we discussed from a spouse perspective. This week, we are here with a diverse group of guests as we discuss raising children in the military. Today with us, we have Robin Ammon. She is a military spouse. She is a teacher's assistant, and I like to also call her friend. Hi, Robin.
Hi, how are you?
I'm good. How are you?
Doing well, thank
We
you.
That's good. We also have with us Jaime Valencia. He is a senior chief in the United States Navy. Hello, Jaime. How are you?
I'm well. How you guys doing?
Doing good. Thank you. Thank you. And then we also have LaShondra Sean and Ernest McIver. Ernest is still currently serving, and Sean is out of the military right now, but they are joining us as well. Hi, guys. How are you?
Hello. Good. How are you?
Good. Thank you. And then last but of course not least, we have Joyce Hamilton. She is a retired Army first sergeant, right? Sergeant first class. Let me get it right. Retired Army Sergeant first class, a former drill sergeant, and she's a co-author of the book Behind the Ranks, right? So you got the book Behind the Ranks. So I'm gonna throw this plug out there right now. We are gonna show the book again. Show the book again. We are going
Volume
to talk
three.
to her.
This is volume three.
Volume 3. We are going to talk with her at a later date, probably on the 30th, because we're just going to talk about single mom. She was a single mother raising children in the United States Army. So, guys, welcome, 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 and thank you so much for joining me here on Real Talk, the Military Edition. We appreciate you so much, right? So, let's just jump right into it. Can we all agree that the military is a well-defined institution with a distinct hierarchy and organizational structure? Can we agree on that? The military is diverse. If you think about it, the military is diverse against genders, across all genders, against age groups, you name it, the military ethnicities, right? But there's one thing we all have in common, regardless of our age, gender, or ethnicity, and that's children. We all are raising children. At some point in another, we're empty nesters. We have raised children. So I'm going to ask you this, and I'm going to start out by letting you know what research says. In my research, it said that there are 1.76 million children and youth in military families. That's a lot of children, right? And the children who are in the military, they're unique and they have unique needs and experiences compared to their peers. Because if you think about it, children in the military, they often deal with frequent moves, prolonged separations, and the D word, deployments. It's deployments, right? So they have to deal with all of this. So they are unique. And have you ever heard people say, and Robin, I'm gonna start off with you. Have you ever heard people say, well, military children, they're so adaptable and resilient? Have you ever heard that before?
Yes.
And how did that affect you any when you heard that? What do you think about that statement?
Well, now that they're older, it like when they were younger, they adapted a little bit easier. But
Mm,
now that they're like middle school, getting into high school, it's harder for them. My
hmm.
oldest is hating moving. She doesn't want to move anymore, but she adapts. Like it's
Right.
just, but I just sometimes I don't reply back when people say that, and sometimes I'm like, no, well, not really. Each of my
Right,
kids are different.
right. So, Joyce, I actually want to jump to you because she said now that her children are older, it's and yours are grown.
Yes.
So, can you explain? Did you go through your children the high school stage?
Yes.
Was that a
Yes.
harder stage?
Well, being overseas, I'll start with that. My son was born in Japan, Camp Zama, Japan. And so, because I stayed there like 5 years. And so, when you PCS and go from different installations, when they were younger, they enjoyed traveling. So they didn't mind going from one installation to another. But as they get older, they develop friendships. And it's so hard
Mhm.
for them to, they go because they have to go. But like,
Right.
I'm gonna give you an example. My daughter, when she was in middle school, we was in Germany, and she met a young girl. They was friends for a long time. They made some plans that whenever they go to college, they go into a HBCU at Tennessee State University. They going to Tennessee. Do you
Okay.
know? Do you know from that connection, they met each other when they was on their way to college. They've been to different installations. They stayed in
Right.
contact. They met each
Right.
other. They really ran into each other in Tennessee. My daughter went to Tennessee State University, and I think she went to Vanderbilt. And they're best
Okay.
friends. And they live in
Okay.
Tennessee now, even that they graduated
That's
from
good.
college. So they developed a wonderful relationship that they're still
Right.
connected. So that was really
Okay.
good, but
That
not
is good.
everyone can adjust, in adapt.
Right. 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 So, Jaime, how old are your children?
My oldest daughter, I have three girls. My oldest is 17, and then I have a 9 and an 8-year old.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah.
So you have the different stages of the children, and most of us have children that are different stages, and they go through differently during different stages, right? Okay. So when we hear people say that children, military children, are so adaptable and resilient, so the truth of the matter is that some, not all of them, but some of them have more mental health, more trauma, and other related issues because of the frequent moves, the prolonged separation and deployment. Some of them deal with abandonment issues, separation anxiety, social disorders, excuse me, relationship problems, amongst other concerns. And I want to just talk about deployment a little bit, or um, is that what they call it too for the Army deployment, Joyce?
Yes, I deployed to Iraq. Yes. Hmm.
Okay, so I want to talk about deployment from the military perspective as well as the parent. Well, all of us are parent, but just the one leaving and the one staying behind. So I read a survey that said 1/3 of the children that go through with a deployed parent were at high risk for social issue disorder. Right? It was said that the children who have parents or even the caregivers left at home with poor mental health report more child related difficulties during deployment as well. So, Jaime, you said you had three different stages. Children go through stages toddler, adolescent, and young adult.
Hmm.
As the one leaving, as the one leaving, how do you feel when you have to leave your children behind for deployment? And
Mm.
how do you perceive it affects you?
Well, it's definitely hard, but I will tell you, my wife is also in the Navy. She's a Navy chief, and so we alternate between sea and shore duty. And I can honestly tell you that it's far easier to manage life deployed, missing your children and your family, than staying behind, with three kids by
Mm,
yourself, especially three daughters as a man. Um, Regardless of how adaptable we tend to be, in today's society, it is very difficult as a man to take three girls anywhere. Especially when the girls were younger and they were on diapers, for example, and you find yourself at the mall and you have to change the diaper, and then you go into the male's restroom and there is no changing table. So there is the little challenges like that. It was very difficult, very overwhelming because I still had my career that I had to manage. Come home tired, make dinner, that sort of stuff. So I can honestly tell you that And this might sound terrible, but I will find it easier to deploy and just miss my children wholeheartedly than to be behind with them when my wife was deployed.
Yeah. It's you brought up something that nobody really ever thinks of, especially us women, because we don't go in the men's restroom. But you
That's
said
right.
there was no changing table in there.
That's right.
So you're trying to change the like how do you do that? And that's something that society doesn't think about because military, we are what, the 1%, I believe I said last time. So society doesn't think about, oh, we need a changing table in here because there might be a dad that's raising their children, or stuff.
Yes.
It's just a little difficult. I think we had a question and or a comment, and it said deployment can be rough on both the parent and the child. That is true. So, LaShawn, have you had to stay behind while Ernest and take care of the kids? Because you have four,
Mm-hmm.
right? So
We have.
the difficulty. Did you hear? Jaime, he said there was no changing table in the restroom, right? And that's what he had to deal with. That was one of his difficulties. What about from your perspective?
When Ernest deployed, we had 3 at the time, and it was difficult for me because our older 2 are from a previous marriage, so I had to deal with that as well. So that made it even more difficult to know that Ernest was gone. I had to take care of everything. I was working double and triple shifts sometimes, take the kids to work with me, and then I would still have to send the older 2 off to California. So it was just our 3-year-old and I. So all of that was difficult. Just having
Okay.
to manage that and not have anybody for there emotionally or mentally.
That's good. Not having anyone there. So, Joyce, let me ask you this. Different stages: toddler, adolescent, young adult. Robin, this is going to come to you too. What stage do you perceive was the most difficult in raising your children and understanding that mom's got to go?
Mm.
I'll say the teenage years, and I'm gonna try to be as brief as I can. I was a single parent, at that time, and I had just put one of my daughters. I put her through college, and I had three. I had four children, and three of them was still at home with me. And I arrived at Fort Benning, Georgia. As soon as I got there, they said, "Guess what? You get ready to deploy in 3 weeks." Now I'm a single parent. And they said, you need to have your family care plan. You need to have everything ready. And I didn't know anybody. I just arrived there from Germany. And so I went to church. This is a true story. I went to church and I said, look, I need help. I don't know, because I love the Lord, and I found a church. And this lady said a friend of hers, her husband was putting her out. She had nowhere to live. So I asked her to come move into my house for 3 weeks so I can get to know her. And she watched my kids for me while I deployed for 7 months. But
Wow.
I got to know her, and we had the same values. It was a divine connection. I know it was, because I had
Yeah.
17 years in the army, and they said they was going to put me out if I didn't find somebody. And I saw them put somebody out who had 19 years in. So I knew they were
Wow.
serious about it, because she didn't have
Wow.
anybody to watch her children. And so my kids told me, they said, Mom, we're going to be all right. You need to retire. I want you to, because 17 years, we don't want to waste all that time.
Right.
They were
Right.
older too. So that's what helped me a lot.
Okay.
So because you can't deploy worrying about your children while you deploy. It just doesn't
Yeah.
go. But
Yeah.
God allowed me to
Wow.
be able to go.
Wow, that was something. Toddlers was the most difficult. They are being passed between family members. When you get back, they have hard time reconnecting. Yeah, that's definitely one of my questions. So you say the teenage years. Robin, what do you say right now?
Uh, both my kids are completely different with the way they handle stuff. My oldest right now is the most difficult because it's the teen years, and she left a great group and great support system back in Washington. So for her, it'd be the teenage years. I think for my youngest, it was more like adolescent years because she had it rough in elementary school because he was gone pretty much the whole time and everything else. Like Lucia, I believe you remember, Ellison, like when she was little, she really adapted him coming back from deployment and was like
Yeah.
a baby, and she was like, oh, everything was fine. But it's amazing how they're different and how you like.
Okay. Okay. All right. So they're just different. So Ernest and Jaime reconnecting, coming back, reconnecting back into, we got to reconnect and reacclimate ourselves back into the family. But more so, we have to reconnect with children, and at a toddler age, do they really remember? Especially, we have some parents, and I believe, and it's been 21 years since we had a little one, but I believe it's new parents who get off the boat first, who's
Yeah.
never seen this child. And sometimes the child is a couple of months, sometimes the child is, almost a year because they left just being born. How do you reconnect with your children coming back off of deployment, Ernest and then Jaime?
So what I had to do was I just had to spend time with them. So usually when you get back from deployment, you're going to get some time off, maybe 2 weeks or so. So you just spend every second you can, and you got to reconnect that way. That way they know you're home, they know you're not leaving, hopefully for a while, and then everything just kind of comes together. That's what I say. Like just spending that time together, doing stuff together. Um, they seen you at home, they see you home every day. The reconnection process could work that way, and that's what I had to do when I came back.
Okay. Jaime?
Well, I guess I've been blessed. My 9-year-old Zoe was born on one of my deployments, and um, I remember, being fearful that she would not recognize me. She was 4 months old when I met her, and she, I held her, and she was more than comfortable. So that was very relieving. But um, just like it was said before, you get home and you have to put yourself to the side and then spend time with them. But I can honestly say in all of my deployments, and I've done a lot of them, the transition has been pretty good. Especially with the girls. When I come home, they're very excited to see me, and it's a little overwhelming, of course, because they just want to spend the whole day with you. But you have to
Right.
understand that what they come from. That's the way they express their feelings. But I can honestly say that the transitions have always been pretty seamless. I usually have more a harder time with my wife than with my own kids, but that's a different story.
That's it. That's next segment.
Yeah.
So listen, Joyce. Everybody here is talking because, right, they have a spouse that's home. They have a spouse that's home, and Robin and Sean, we're gonna chat about this in a minute. But they have a spouse at home, right? That is saying, well, here's mommy or here's daddy. But when you're a single parent, what is it more difficult to try to reconnect with your children? Because and listen to this, all relies on too how much communication that you have with your child while you're gone.
Well, I made it my business to talk to them, on a regular basis because the job I had, I was with the chaplain a lot too because I was an EO advisor. So we always had access to phones. So I was always, calling and checking on my children, making sure they're doing well in school, and just checking on them. See, and then my daughter was a junior in high school, and so no, excuse me, she was a senior in high school, and by the time I got back, she was ready to graduate, and I almost missed that graduation. But I didn't have like family members to help me. I really had no one. I'm just being honest. It was just me and my children, and I just, we had a relationship before we left, and it was a strong one. So when I came back, I just spent as much time as I could. But they know I had to be at work. Whenever I had to
Right.
work, they just was always understanding because I think I kind of raised them like that. They had no other choice because that was our bread and butter. That was just our life, and so
Right.
they understood it. And it's a big gap between my daughter's age, my two daughters, and my sons. It was a 7-year gap. So once the girls left, then I had the sons, and I was still in the army, so they was in high school by that time, and we just
Okay.
developed another stronger, relationship after the daughters moved out and went off to college, and just had the sons at home. It was just, and they
Right.
said, "Mom, you just spoiled the boys," like
Yeah.
because I tried to explain to them I didn't have a lot of money then. At the time when
Right.
I had them, I didn't have two nickels to rub together. By the time
Okay.
I, by the time they got older, I started making more rank. I
Yeah.
had a little bit more
Right.
money. So
Right. So I got this one question that said, as a spouse, how would you explain to a young child that his dad or his mom, that he does, that his dad or his mom does not know who the parent is after a year? Oh, okay. So that kind of goes with what I asked before. Basically, the question was saying, okay, what about the child who doesn't recognize the parent? And I don't think that's anyone on this. Can any one of you guys identify with that question?
no.
No? Okay.
No.
Robin, so Robin and Sean, what did you have to do to make sure your children was able to recognize dad, was able to remember, because I remember with me, I used to have a picture and I'd be like, see daddy, or and I would have the boots by the door, daddy would be back, different things like that. So, what did you guys have to do to make sure your child remembered that parent that was gone? And Jaime, I think you can even answer this question too, because didn't you watch the kids while your wife was deployed?
That's right.
Yeah, yeah. So Sean, what is it that you had to do for the kids to be like, oh yeah, that's dad. I remember.
Um, our older ones were in elementary school, so I think Josiah was in maybe like the fourth grade, so he got it. His sister, I think she was in maybe what second grade or so. She understood. Joshua, he was only 2. And Ernest helped a lot when it came to that because he was able to do the what was it called? Like when he would read the books and then send
Oh,
the disc home, and so that helped a lot. That, oh my gosh, well that helped.
Okay.
But I did, I showed them pictures. Their dad would take pictures and email them. So I was able to, like, hey, this is what daddy's doing on the ship. But yeah, that those are the things that helped. Reading, doing the disc and just showing them the pictures of daddy's actual job. And so they were always interested and they always knew.
Yes, yes, yes. Robin, what did you have to do to make sure the children remembered?
Well, with Lucia, they had the United Through reading,
yeah.
Yep.
which helped a lot. We, whenever he could, like do the video chat, which was very rare, um, then he would do it. But I would point out pictures, like you said. I would be like, "Oh, daddy, this is daddy. This is." I would have pictures everywhere so she could see them. Mariana, he wasn't deployed while she was young, so he didn't deploy until she was probably, we were headed to shore duty, so he didn't deploy until she was probably 6
Okay.
and stuff. But Lucia, it was all pictures and just talk, and if he just like video and everything else, he would try to send little videos of himself if he could, or
Okay.
CDs and stuff.
Okay. That's good. Yep. Everybody can relate to that United Through Reading. And Jaime, what did you do? Because it's a little different, right? With you being home, because not to take anything away, but you're not mom.
Yes, that is correct. I am not mom. I don't know how to do hair.
You're not.
I haven't had hair in about 16 years. So
Yeah.
it was very difficult, almost heartbreaking to take my kids to daycare looking sort of crazy, because I don't know what to
Hmm.
do with all that stuff in their head. But one of the
Right.
things that really worked for me is that I tried. We thankfully we've lived in Virginia Beach for a very long time, and I tend to take the girls to places that mom enjoy, and I will let them know. So if mom liked a particular restaurant, I'll take the girls and I let them know, like, mom really likes this place. Mom loves Marshalls. So if I had to take them to Marshalls, I'll say, hey, mom loves Marshalls, even though daddy was miserable because I hate shopping. But that's the
Right.
sort of stuff that I did. We consistently spoke about her. Of course, them being girls, they remember the little things that the only mom can do. The particulars that only a mother can do, especially to a little girl. And I did my best trying to emulate those sort of things. I watched a lot of YouTube videos on how to braid hair, and but those were the sort of stuff that kept the memory alive. And when she came,
Right.
every one of her deployments, when she would come back, the girls would jump right in, and it was almost seamless. So we just been blessed with really good kids, I guess.
Good, good. That's good. So I'm hearing communication. I'm hearing
Oh yeah.
communication is the key. Regular conversations. And so let me ask you this. How important is it to discuss these things, like, okay, this is mommy or daddy's career, this is what I'm doing to try to take care of the family. I have to go on deployment because of this, or I have, and Joyce, you was deployed to Iraq,
Right.
right? And
Yeah.
there's a lot going on over there. So how important is it for us to keep our kids informed with the career and the path that it goes with, but also making sure we keep them in a child's place and not putting too much on them to where they're worried? How important is that?
It's important. You can bring your children to your workplace. That's I used to bring my children to work, and even just not only just deployment. Even when I was a drill sergeant, I used to bring my kids because they can do push-ups. I taught them how to do push-ups, so I use them as demonstrators. So they understood about the job that I had, and every job that I held, they would be there. At award ceremonies, the family was always involved, always involved.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. And it's important to keep our children involved. And I asked, how much do we keep our children involved? Because sometimes we can put adult concerns on a child, if that makes sense. I remember one time, you know what? Maybe I'll let my husband explain that when he's on, because he's on from a person. He's on the next segment. But I say that because sometimes we can say to our kids, make sure you take care of mommy, or make sure you help daddy out around the house, and stuff go haywire, and the kids are like, oh no, I'm not doing what I told. I failed my parent. Like, so where do you go? What's the balance with the child?
Fall in.
Look, I see Joyce and Sean
I,
like,
look, I was a single parent before. They was not gonna run me. You know what I'm saying? I mean, like I had to do what I had to do, and it was full of discipline. Your room will be clean. They'll tell you now. We when we gonna have Thanksgiving meals, Mom, you remember you did this? You came and stepped my room with a white glove. They laugh about stuff now. You know what I'm saying? But I had to do what I had to do.
right. Wow,
They
wow,
appreciate
wow.
it. They appreciate it now because they can
Yeah.
see the difference of
Mhm.
children, that's even in households with two parents, that the kids are so disrespectful and just so spoiled, and they always calling me saying, I'm glad you raised me the way you
Right,
did.
right,
So to
right.
respect adults, I don't play that. You will respect.
So I wanna touch on a little bit about not having support, or the spouse not being there. Robin, if we can go a little bit into our story 13 years ago.
Oh boy, what was it?
13 years ago,
Was
the
deployed.
USS Theodore Roosevelt,
If
you
oh
were
yeah, they were
pregnant.
underway. They were.
They
I was
were
pregnant.
gone. They were on the way. They
They
were just long gone.
they were gone. They were gone. I remember they didn't they pull in like 2 days later. Like my water broke, and I call Ellison, who's our ombudsman, and I'm like, I think my water broke. And being a first time like pregnant, I don't know what to expect. And so I was part of the FRG, which was great and everything
Yes.
else. And it was because I was new to the ship. You know, we were pregnant, new, everything, first deployment. So it was nice having the FRG and that support group of people and knowing who the ombudsman was and knowing what the ombudsman did. Because I know now, as an ombudsman, there's a lot of people who don't know what we do and what we're there for and
Well, we
stuff.
normally don't be in a delivery room, but
No, no, that is, but I thank you for that because I'm sitting there and it's like a nightmare from and then they got my mom there, they made sure she got there, but it was so great to have that support and everything else, which is very very rare. I've learned because command, it's different. Each command we go to, it's different groups, like where we're at now, tiny command, very few people, so it's like a different community. But that it ended up being an emergency situation. Ellison thankfully got a hold of my husband and kept in contact while I was what they were doing to me, which I don't remember much. I think Ellison remembers more than I do. I was uh,
yeah,
I
I
was a little
see
out
some
of it,
sides of Robin. I see some sides
but
of
it's
Robin, but it was all good.
but I stress to a lot of like the new families that come to this command, and when I was in Washington, that you want to find out who those the FRG and get involved with whatever you can, just to know people and get that way you'll meet people of like the air community, the nuclear community, the engineer, because then you mesh. And
Yeah,
I was very thankful for the Roosevelt
yeah,
group of gals because they really helped me get through the pregnancy and didn't made sure I stayed calm and didn't panic. And
yeah,
they
yeah.
just they were it was great. I loved it, and that was
Yeah.
an eventful night.
Yes, it was. It was. So we talk about this subject to ask you guys, how important is it to have support raising children in the military? How important is that? And Jaime, look, I see you doing this. How important is support?
Um, but it's definitely important. Of course, some folks have better situation than others. I would say. I was born overseas, so it was my wife. Well, my wife was born in Queens, in New York, but she was raised in Ecuador, and she had a really, when I look at her family, she has her sisters and mom. They're all very together, very united. They all used to live here in Virginia Beach, and out of nowhere, very conveniently, they all left at once. And so, there was a time where even the simplest thing, especially when you have small children and they go to bed and you don't have any milk, and you can just leave your kids alone in the house. I remember she'll call her mom would get their milk and bring it over. But once they all left, I had to figure all that out on my own, and it was extremely difficult. Even on duty days, I had to drive. I would drive on Friday to Washington D.C., where her sister was, leave the kids there, drive back, stand duty on Saturday, and then go back to DC on Sunday to get the girls and come back because I didn't have anybody to watch them. Um,
Right.
Even simple things. If I was at work and I had to work late, the latest I can pick them up is 18:30, and I still have to feed them dinner. And knowing that you have absolutely nobody that can go get them for you, it is it's almost like the anxiety that brings in you, knowing that if something happens to me from now on to daycare and I have nobody to pick up my kids. And as a matter of fact, oh man, you're bringing up some. Ooh, I I had a an incident where I had to go to the emergency room, and Helen was on deployment, and I called the nurse appointment line, and the lady was like, I gave her my symptoms. She said, you need to call 911 and go to the emergency room right now. And I'm like, who's gonna get my kids from daycare? And then,
Wow.
of course, they said, well, you call CPS and they go get them. I was like, I'm not gonna have anybody go get my girls from daycare. So I drove with chest pains to the daycare, came back home, and then took myself to the emergency room. That was it was awful. And when I hear people and when they have friends and family, they can even watch them overnight because you just need some time off. And that when I hear that stuff, I almost envy them. It's like it sounds wonderful, and if you have it, embrace it because not a lot of people have that sort of support system.
Yeah. Well, I thank God that He worked everything out and you here to tell a story because that definitely is a testimony. And I just want to chime in. Do you think it's harder for a man to be behind with the children and develop a community of support than it is a woman?
I cannot generalize. I can say that every man um, would think the way I do. I think men, at least I, have a sense of maybe pride, and that's why we are a little more reluctant to ask for help. Um, I do believe, though, in that in general, society does not see a man, especially raising young girls, the same way they will see a woman raising young girls. And that those sort of barriers do make things a little bit more difficult. At least the appearance part, it's difficult.
Mhm.
I'll tell you, bathrooms for me were a nightmare. Taking two little girls to a restroom by myself. When I see a woman going to a woman's bathroom with young girls, it's perfectly okay. But when you have a man with two little girls in a men's restroom, it is a whole different feeling. You're anxious. You're looking at this other man, how they seeing these little
Yeah,
girls. What are they
yeah,
seeing in the bathroom? It's terrible. It's terrible.
yeah,
It is hard to describe, but I do think there is a difference and it is more difficult.
yeah, yeah. Thank you for that. Ernest, you have anything to add to that?
I would say that it is a little. It's probably a little more difficult for society's going to see a man with 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 kids, boy or girl. I know personally, I don't want anybody to help me with my kid, but you reach out and hopefully you have to reach out to. It's be a difficult time for you. So I think you just have to integrate yourself with somebody where you are. Get to know them and see how. Hopefully they have kids and hopefully they treat their kids right, so you can kind of trust them to watch your kids if something does come up.
Okay. Right. So listen, guys, I wanna ask you this. I just think that was so powerful, especially hearing, Jaime's situation with the kids. Like that's just it's just all something that even me as a parent left behind, I never even, thought about that part of, well, what if we don't have anybody? So my next question is, has your military career affected your communication with your children in a negative way at all? Joyce, you want to go with that?
No, my children. See, I'm retired now, so they see the fruits of my labor now. And so I'm just blessed, because not only did I retire from the army, I did 12 additional years working for the federal government, civil service, and so I'm fully retired from that too. So the children, they saw our small beginnings when I was homeless, living in an abandoned building in Brooklyn, New York. Recruiter coming there picking me up, and I went to Fort Dix, New Jersey. They saw all that. They saw all the struggles from day one to 22 years, and then they look at my life now. It was worth it, and I thank God. I thank God for it.
Right. Okay. That's
Thank
good
God.
that it wasn't because I know some people, it does affect them.
Yeah.
Did you, LaShawn, see any kind of communication deficit between you and the kids?
No. Mm-mm. They talked regardless, and they still talk regardless. I will say even though Ernest hasn't been deployed in a few years, the older our oldest son gets, I don't know, maybe that's just a boy thing going through his teenage years because our oldest is 14.
Mm-hmm.
So that communication. I'm not really sure whether that has anything to do with the military or, like I said, it's just a boy going through boy stuff.
Right. Okay. Robin, have you noticed any communication deficits between the girls?
A little bit. As Lucia gets older, and stuff, she tends to, instead of telling us how she feels, she'll just walk off and go upstairs and everything else. I mean, when they do ask any questions about his jobs, he answers them as best as he can with what he can tell them. Mariana just she doesn't speak much. She holds a lot of stuff inside and just says never, just she's the quiet one, doesn't really speak much, but not really. I mean, like I said, they're both different with the way they react to stuff. And now, I mean, lately, they really haven't. Like I said, it's been so different up here. They just kind of hide in their room the whole time and come out, and they have like a small group of friends. And I don't know. It's hard to say, to be honest.
Okay. How welcoming are you guys to allow your children to talk about their feelings and how they feel about what's going on, how the deployment, or whether, because it's not always the deployment either. It could be the workups, as I think they call that in the Navy, is called the workups. Joyce, I'm not sure what it's called in the Army, but the little, like when you have to go out in the field, or even duty days where you got to stay overnight, that takes a toll too. How do you guys allow your children to talk about your feelings, and do you talk about how it makes you feel to leave them? And I'm going to go ahead and start with you, Sean and Ernest.
That was the oldest. I don't know if y'all heard that, so sorry.
Yeah,
the oldest one, he's 14, so he's just like, oh, okay. So it's normal for him. Our 11-year-old, she's the only girl. She's a daddy's girl. So she wants her papa to be there 24/7. So like when he has duty days, he makes sure he lets the kids know we have a large calendar, and he'll put up there Papa Duties Day. And either she'll come along or he'll come along. He's like, Papa's duty day. And he's like, sucks. So this is going to be a sucky day because Papa has duty. You won't see him until, the following day. And she's always had that issue. His duty days, deployment, she's always had that issue with him just being in the military in general since he's been in her life. She lets it be known. So she's able to voice everything. They all are. Our 8-year-old or 7-year-old, he voices how he feels. He's like, oh, why does Papa have to do this? Why does Papa have to do that? He's the one who, dealt with separation anxiety when his Papa was deployed. So they both go through that. And the baby, I don't know, he's 3, so I don't even know if he cares anymore. So we tell him, okay, where he's like, where's Papa? Papa's at work. He's like, okay. So he asked maybe like 2 more times. Papa's at work, and then that's it.
Okay. So Ernest, do you ever, LaShawn told us a lot about what the kids feel. Have you ever discussed to the kids, hey, well, I don't like leaving either. And this is how I feel, because so many times we hold back our feelings and the kids can perceive that as they get older, like, well, mom and dad never really cared. So have you ever told your feelings of how you like the voice? And I'm coming to you guys with that question.
Yes, I tell them that, that's what I have to do. It's the job. And if I don't do my job, then we don't have a house, and then, we won't have money to get things for them. So I kind of explain it to them like that this has to happen in order for this to happen. They seem to take it pretty well. They still don't like it. They still don't like duty. I don't like it either. And I tell them that I don't like it either. You know, just so we can kind of be on the same wavelength. I don't like duty either, but it's something that we have to do. And you know, sometimes Sean is able to bring them up to the command when I have duty, and we'll have dinner, or you know, we'll sit and watch a game on the TV or something while I'm there. And she's been doing that since we were stationed in Virginia. So every now and then, when they can, they will come and sit and spend part of the duty with me, especially if it's on the weekend, like a Saturday or a Sunday. They might be there
Okay.
all day, and you know, that helps with it as well.
Right. Okay. Well, if you guys just joined in, you're watching Real Talk with Ellison, and we're talking about raising children in the military. Yes, when my son was 3 years old, he told me he hated me because I had to leave. Yes, yes, yes. So we'll chat more about that next session. Joyce, I hear you say a lot. My kids are older. They've seen my fruits of the labor, but how was it? Did they express that they didn't like it? Did you ever say, hey, this is how mommy feels sad? Did you? And
Well,
what I'm
yeah,
asking is, have you ever really expressed your heartfelt
yeah,
feelings to our
yeah,
children? Because they're just little people.
yeah. They actually they can see the struggle that I had because I was a single parent and I never received any child support. So as far as our money, it was always funny. You know, with 4 kids and people look at your rank and they think you have so much money, and we was always struggling financially. But I supported them, like they sports. I was always at their school. It wasn't like I wasn't absent. I was always there. Like the principal knew me by. I knew all their teachers. I was so involved in their school system. People was trying to wonder how can you do all that. And plus in charge of all these soldiers. Only through the grace of God, I was totally involved. And then when you have to be up so early in the morning, you have PT and you have to get childcare, and then you're the last person, early in the morning, late at night. That goes on for years. And then even when I was a drill sergeant, it was like I didn't see them at all. I was up old dark 30, late at night, 10 o'clock. That went on 2, 3 years. So um, but we talk because they seen the struggle, and I would always be. They see I'm tired. They see, but I was still. It was only God. I'm telling you. I know God was the only reason why I made it. Because somebody else would have probably jumped off a building. Because it was just so stressful, and I didn't
Yeah,
realize how stressful I was until when I retired. I said I didn't even know I had that load on me. When
yeah,
I retired, I was like, it's something came off of me, and I was
yeah,
like, this is the life to live. You
yeah.
know. So if you
Right.
go up past 20, I'm trying to encourage y'all. Y'all need to go and retire. I
I mean, she said I didn't even know I was stressed and I had a
didn't
load.
know that. It was a load. I mean, you just in it. You know how it is.
Yes,
You in it.
yes.
You got to be there. You got to get in trouble if you're not. So
Right, 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 right. So you gotta be there.
you got to be
So
there.
so how important is it, right? Especially with your girls. Because with girls, their father is the first man in their life. So how important is it to have that relationship, that communication with them to where they can openly talk with you and also you can converse with them, especially because you stay behind when your wife deploys sometime.
Yeah, it's definitely crucial. I learned when my girls were young that if you communicate with them, not to speak with them. I understand that they're not adults, but if you talk to them as the reasonable people that they are, because they're very intelligent, um, they get to understand more than you think they would. And something that I read somewhere, right, and it dawned on me, and I utilized it. It was that they need to understand the reason why we do what we do. And I know that there's a lot of conversations. There's a lot is being brought up. That this is how we pay the bills. Look at the house you live, the car you drive. But the Navy's paying for this. But um, I made it my point for them to understand that there is a reason why we send ships overseas. We need men and women that are courageous enough to wear the country's cloth and do what people are not willing or even able to do, because there's evil in this world, and you need good people that is kind-hearted, that is willing to stop it. And so when you, as I expressed that to the girls when they were young, they understand the purpose of the, of the ships and the aircraft, and why mom and dad have to go on this ship for so many months. I will tell you, my girls have a product of public school in Virginia Beach, and I'm an advocate of the Virginia Beach public school system. They've been really good, and they have a military, almost like a liaison, and they focus on the military children, at least at the elementary level, right? And so the girls will come back with these booklets, and they will sit with them. Um, they will consistently remind them, this is what mom and dad are doing. This is the reason why they're not here. But this is why the United States needs these ships. This is why the United States needs these aircraft, and we need people like them to man these and do that job. And it gives them a different sense. It gives them a
Right.
sense of purpose, and it seems give them a sense of pride.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. So that was really good, Robin. So he said that he tells the kids about, why they go overseas, what they have to do. How much of that balance needs to be there? Because can it provoke worry if not careful to tell them too much?
Well, we're very open with the girls. That's what he does and everything else. And as they've gotten older, they've asked a lot of questions and stuff, and they know what's going on in the world. So they do worry. It does when we are upfront with them. They do worry, but then we also tell them, there's nothing to be worried about. Everything. Just we just kind of reassure them that things will be okay. And stuff like that. But there is some more. But we tell them that he goes. They hate when he leaves, and there's a lot of emotions for all of us. But we reassure when we are upfront with them about what's going on and why he has to do what he has to do. And even being on shore duty, he's had to travel and do stuff, and some of it we can tell him about, and some of them we can't tell him about.
Right.
But and I think as they get older, they kind of understand. And like I said before, sometimes they hold it in and won't speak about it, and it takes a little bit, but we don't push them to open up until they're ready either and stuff. But we try to be reassuring when they know what's going on in the world, because they talk about the history and they bring up stuff at school, and they hear things that aren't necessarily true and stuff. So that squashing those rumors are the hardest part, because they're like, oh, well, so-and-so, dad said this, or so-and-so's mom said this. And
so it has to be a balance. Joyce, you said you was deployed providing the purpose. Yes. So when you said you was deployed to Iraq.
Yes.
Now, Iraq, I have never been. I just know what's going on in the news, and as far as I know, it's been. How long have you been retired?
I've been retired since 2007, December of 2007.
So, 2007. So that means you've seen some war.
Oh yes.
How do you?
I deployed in 2003 when it first kicked off.
Okay. So as a parent deploying during wartime, how do we explain this to our children? And what is your concern, right? Because I know you are a woman of God, and I know that, right? And so we got to trust and believe that God will take care of, but we're still human. So how do we discuss this with our children, and how do we keep our worry, our fear at bay?
Well, everything about deployment, which was all new to me. I arrived at a new installation, Fort Benning, Georgia, from Germany. Didn't know anyone there, and so my foundation of being a Christian, I know that's what gave me peace, because I could not, because even when I deployed, I talked to the kids, they knew I was going, I didn't even know what to expect. And so when I arrived, I was kind of paranoid, when I got there because I was worried about my children. I was worried, I think, more than anything. And then the Lord gave me a peace because I said, you know what? If it's my time to go, then I'm just gonna go. That's the only way. In Psalm 91, I just stood on the word of God, and that's what worked for me. And I would always talk to my children. I would pray with them, and I probably missed a lot of things that I don't even know about, because as a single parent, you don't connect with everything. It's so much
Right.
going on, and so
Right.
everything that God gave me grace to get through, to the other side, I thank Him for it because it was not easy. The journey was
Right.
rough. And like I said, we went 2003. I slept in a 5-ton truck in
Jesus.
the cab of the truck, and we had on our gear, everything. And I mean, and as a woman being deployed, I'm not trying to make an excuse for women, but when they convoying and that's the truck is moving and you just following them, they're not stopping. You have to go to the bathroom. How do women go to the bathroom? You see what I'm saying? A man can just get out. It's easy for a man. They can put bucket. They can use anything. A woman, you're gonna pee on yourself. You're gonna, and it got to a point that I said, I don't even care if somebody see my butt right now, because I mean, you just get to that point because you have to survive. It was like living in the
Right.
street,
Right.
like being homeless in the street. That's
Jesus.
how it was. And I'm in a foreign country. Sometimes I will say, what am I doing over here? And I'm like, I know I should be home, because as a mother, I should be home with my kids, but I know it was my duty. And I was scared. I was scared
Yeah.
at first, but then after that, I just said, I have to trust God. I had to trust Him on everything. And my job, I was an EO advisor. I dealt with unlawful discrimination, prevention of sexual harassment, all that. And they said, we want you to stay close by with the chaplain. So it was so good because I would go to the services. They made me an honorary chaplain. They gave me a coin and said,
Right.
"You an
Right.
honorary chaplain because you've been." So God arranged that for me, and I thank God
Mhm.
that He
So
made it
how did the kids deal with it? With mom being gone, knowing wars happening.
right. You know what? As we would talk, they would just share with me what was going on with them. They would just say,
Okay.
"Today at school, this is going on." They would just quickly tell me what their day is, and all I could rely on was the woman that was watching my children for me. That
As a
she's going to do
woman.
the right thing. She was a Christian, and she knew the values that I had. And she really pretty much had the same values I had about
Right.
education, everything, and it just worked out really good what God had done for me at that moment because it could have been worse.
Okay.
They were so keen on me retiring. They said they will put you out if you don't have a family care plan. They will
Mhm.
put you out of the army.
Right.
Yeah.
You know what I'm
Right.
saying? So they was like, "Mom, don't worry about us. We're good. We just want you to make
Right.
it to 20." That's how they was talking to me.
Right. Right. Okay. So as time is winding down, I want each of you to think of a nugget that you would like to leave to that parent, whether it's a new parent, whether it's somebody dealing with a toddler, adolescent, teen. What is a nugget that you would leave them to give them hope that you know what you can get through this, or how you can get through this, whatever you guys choose. What is the nugget that you want to leave to our viewers that are listening about raising children in the military? Because like we had said, 1/3 of the children with a parent that has been deployed, that's just one deployment, right? And Jaime, I heard you say multiple deployments. So 1/3 of those children are high risk for psychosocial issues, whether it be abandonment issues. LaShawn, I heard you say separation anxiety, social disorders, relationship problems. They always have to move, go to new schools, different things that our military children have to deal with. What is the one nugget that you would like to leave our viewers about raising children in the military today? And I'm gonna go ahead and start with you, Sean.
One little nugget that I would like to leave. Jaime mentioned it about the liaisons, the military liaisons. It starts from grade. It goes from elementary school all the way up to 12th grade. So the best way to connect with that is to call your local MWR, and they will point you in the right direction for the military school liaisons. We have done that here. Our son just started his freshman year in high school, so it's like, all right, we're brand new to Florida. Let me get on it. And thank God she was actually at the parent night, and we were able to connect like that. All you had to do is fill out a form saying, hey, I give my child permission to participate. And they hold groups and they talk about, hey, my mom and or dad are on deployment. Hey, I have this going on socially, and I don't feel like I can talk to my mom or dad because they may not understand how I feel about them being in the military. So they have that available for children, and it really doesn't matter how old they are. Please take advantage of it.
Okay. And say the name of that again.
You can go to your local or call your local MWR. So for us, it's like Jacksonville MWR, and I know for their whichever installation he or she may be stationed on, just contact your local MWR. And you can, whatever school that your child attends, call the school. Hey, I want to know if you have a military liaison.
Okay. All right. Ernest, from a father's perspective, anything?
I would just say, it's tough on. It's not just tough on the mom. It's tough on the dad too, or whoever has to deploy. So just become a member of the organizations that the installation or the command has for you. You gotta be involved with other people. I know some people don't like being around other people. I'm one of them, but other people that's going through the same thing that you're going through, they may have a way to help you get through what you're going through, especially with the deployment or, being a single parent, giving birth, like you helped, you used the ombudsman and you came out and helped. So it's all about getting to know people and building those connections with everybody, or not everybody, but just enough people so you can manage what you're going through.
Okay, thank you. Robin, what's your nugget?
Oh. One of them is definitely just to breathe. Every situation is different, to be honest. Every command is different. And to find, like they said before, find the MWR, find who the command representatives are, so you have that connection. And then, even with MWR, and say like Virginia, there's you can find so many different activities, family activities. Get involved, and I guess that's pretty much it. And try to find that person that you can connect with, because you never know. It could be your neighbor, and who's a retired 20-year, veteran from any branch.
Right.
It's
right. Yeah, it's a real good support group. Joyce, what's your nugget?
My nugget is, I know I was a workaholic. And so even though, the military, we tend to like, even it's time for you to leave and go home that night and you want to just get some more work done. My nugget is go home and love on your children. Spend quality time with your children. Let them know, and not just saying it by words, by actions. You can say it all day long, I love you, but you never spend time with them. You never go into that closed door, that room they in, and they stay away from you. They should not be in a room all day, 5-6 hours away from you. You should know what they're doing. You should be involved in their life. So that's my nugget. Stop saying you got to work so much. Get away from that office and get home and love on your children.
Okay. Jaime, what's your nugget?
I would say that establishing a good, solid spiritual foundation with your kids gives them the resources that they need to fend for themselves when you're not around, and it gives them a sense of hope. It allows them to, teaching them to pray. It gives them a sense of that there is a greater being that will look out for them, even if mom or dad are not present at that moment. And that they will cherish that with them, and they will carry that with them wherever they go. And whenever they face adversity, or whatever trial and tribulation comes, they will have at least that. They learn that they know that the Lord has got their back, and then they will not be so desperate. And just like Robin said, I think that being at home and spending time with your kids, like when you're at home, you should be home, and when you're at work, be at work. Don't mix them. Don't
Yeah.
bring work to the house. And
Mm.
we have to understand that the time is the one thing in life that no one can give us back. And so when whatever minutes we have with our kids, we have to utilize them to the fullest, and they will respect that, and they will definitely cherish those moments.
Yeah. Yeah. Thank you guys. Well, I appreciate each and every one of you for your nuggets. Y'all all had some really good nuggets, and Jaime, we need to get together and try to figure out how to get. And I'm serious, so don't laugh. But changing tables in the men's restroom. Like I'm so like that's still bothering me. I'm like, really? Because it's true. And I in my field of work, counseling, I come across a lot of single dads, and now I'm like, man, so I just think we need to figure this out. But I wanted to just say thank you to all of you guys, for being on here. With Real Talk, the military edition. I want to leave to our viewers that it is important to familiarize yourself with different services that the military has to offer for your children, and also for you. You can go to military one source military1source.mil, I believe, and select parenting and children. Is a plethora of information under there. For the Army, you can go to army.com. Under parenting, there's a lot of information under there as well. They have a
MWR.
program called Focus, right? And Focus basically is Families Overcoming Under Stress program. That's what it is. Families Overcoming Under Stress is called Focus. It's a program because, as we discussed, it can be extremely stressful, not only to the parent but also to the children. Right. So, and we gotta just remember to find the community of support system and what that may look like. The Focus program, I know they have a variety of information for all ages, for new parents, child care resources. Jaime, I heard you say about, trying to find somebody to just watch your kids, and resources to engage your children to develop educationally, because so many times we want to sit our kid in front of the iPad or the phone, and
Mm-hmm.
and that's not what they need to do. We need to engage them educationally, get them to express their feelings, different things like that. So get involved, and that's what I've heard out of everybody mostly here, was just to be involved. So again, I want to thank you guys for being here on Real Talk with Ellasin, the military edition. I know I will see a few of you guys in 2 weeks as we discuss from a military perspective, just all about what the military has to say, because we talked a lot about the spouses, the children, but now what about the deployed? What about those that have to deploy? We just be like, oh, we're home and we're stuck. Okay, what are they dealing with out there? All right, so I just want to thank each one of you guys. And Joyce, I can't wait for us to get together and talk
Yes,
about your book, right? Your co-author. I can't wait.
yes,
We're gonna
yes.
have a one-on-one with Joyce. I think LaShawn Baby might join us on that, but we're gonna definitely talk about that single parent, because that is just something that that speaks volumes in itself, that women and men have to deal with as a single parent in the military. Okay, guys. Well, thank you guys again. Y'all have a wonderful night.
Welcome.
Thank you for joining Real
You
Talk with
too.
Thank
Ellison. Have
you,
a good one.
everyone.
Good night,
God
guys.
bless. Yes.
Thank
Stay safe.
you. Y'all
Bye.
stay safe. God
You
bless.
too. Yes.
Bye bye.